we've got a song called Please Please Me. And it was kind of slow Roy Orbison kind of thing. Come on, jump, jump, come on, please, please me. Big note at the end, just like Orbison.
Hello, and welcome to my Beatles YouTube channel. If you like the Beatles, please make sure you subscribe and you check out my other videos because you're definitely gonna find them interesting. This is the third video of a new series called Song Secrets of the Beatles, in which we analyze every single Beatles song one episode at a time. Every episode is divided into 5 different sections: the story behind the song, in the studio, decoding the lyrics, breaking down the music, and legacy and impact. Today's song is Please Please Me. Please Please Me was the Beatles' second single in the United Kingdom and the first single in America. It was also the title track of their first LP, which was recorded to capitalize on the success of the single. In the UK, the single was released on the 11th of January 1963. Its B-side was Ask Me Why. In America, the song was released on the 25th of February 1963, and it was re-released on the 3rd of January 1964. So, let's go ahead with our first section.
The story behind the song, behind the song.
In 1962, the Beatles had accomplished a modest success with the release of their first single, Love Me Do, reaching number 17 on the UK single charts. However, outside of Liverpool and perhaps Hamburg, the Beatles were still relatively unknown. Part of the problem was that as the Beatles released Love Me Do, they had to go back to Hamburg for their final contract. They didn't really want to go, but manager Brian Epstein insisted that if the Beatles already agreed to play in Hamburg, they should. And maybe this is why they couldn't really promote the single on their own soil. However, producer George Martin thought Love Me Do was a promising start, and therefore decided to go ahead with another single. Initially, he didn't like Please Please Me. He said it was rather dreary. In his opinion, the song was too slow and it lacked the potential to become the catchy single they needed. So he suggested the Beatles should release a song called How Do You Do It by Mitch Murray. He actually wanted the Beatles to release this song instead of their first single, Love Me Do. But the Beatles insisted they were only interested in recording their own material. That's when George Martin said, okay, we can do this song, but you have to increase the tempo. And they were like, the what? They didn't know what tempo meant. So he was like, just do it a bit faster. So they played it a bit faster, and there you go, you have a catchy single. Lennon first conceived Please Please Me as a bluesy, slow-tempo song. Lennon recalled, I remember the day I wrote it. I've heard Roy Orbison doing Only the Lonely, and I was also always intrigued by the words of a Bing Crosby song. Please lend a little ear to my pleas, the double use of the word please. So it was a combination of Roy Orbison and Bing Crosby. Originally, the song didn't contain any harmonies or responses, nor did it have the scale harmonica intro. Lennon later said, Please Please Me is my song completely. It was my attempt at writing a Roy Orbison song. I wrote it in the bedroom in my house at Menlove Avenue, which was my auntie's place.
And I'd heard Roy Orbison doing Only the Lonely or something, and I was trying to please me. That's where that came from. And also, I was always intrigued by the words of please lend your little ears to my please, Bing Crosby songs. I was always intrigued by the double use of the word please.
The song was released during one of the worst winters in British history. On the 19th of January, most of the population was snowed in watching TV at home. The Beatles performed on the Saturday night TV show Thank You Lucky Stars. The national exposure of Please Please Me and the band's unusual appearance at the time with long hair caused a lot of attention, and therefore the Beatles were booked for a couple of national tours, starting a very promising career indeed. Okay, let's go ahead with our next section.
In the studio, recording the song.
The Beatles first introduced Please Please Me to producer George Martin on the 4th of September 1962. During that session, Ringo Starr played a bass drum and a maraca on one hand and a tambourine on the other. Initially, the song was bluesy and very slow, which George Martin thought it was too dreary, so he didn't want to go ahead with the song, but then convinced the Beatles to increase the tempo and play a little bit faster. A faster version of the song was recorded on the 11th of September, also at Abbey Road Studios, featuring session drummer Andy White. There's still a debate over who's the drummer for the actual song. Andy White says it was his work, but Ringo says otherwise. The definitive version with the harmonica intro and the Everly Brothers inspired vocal interplay was recorded at EMI Studios on the 26th of November 1962 in 18 takes. Producer George Martin confidently predicted it was going to be the Beatles' first number one. He famously said, "Gentlemen, you just recorded your first number one." Please Please Me showcased the Beatles' ability to craft a groundbreaking hit, laying the foundations for stardom. The stereo mix, completed in February 1963, contains a few variations, like for example Lennon's playful chuckle during the last verse. The song was credited to McCartney-Lennon. The songwriting credit shifted to Lennon-McCartney by the second album. So we have John Lennon, vocals and rhythm guitar and harmonica, Paul McCartney, bass and backing vocals, George Harrison, lead guitar and backing vocals, Ringo Starr on drums, produced by George Martin, and the engineer was Norman Smith. Okay, let's go ahead with our next section.
This is decoding the lyrics.
The lyrics of Please Please Me reflect a plea for reciprocity and emotional connection in a romantic relationship. The narrator expresses frustration with their partner's lack of effort, as seen in lines like, "I know you never even try, girl." The repeated refrain, "Please please me like I please you," underscores a desire for mutual attention and effort, suggesting an imbalance in the relationship. The verses contrast the narrator's devotion, seen in "I do all the pleasing with you," with the partner's perceived indifference, which causes the narrator emotional pain. Hi, sorry to interrupt the video. Just a very quick, very important announcement. I published a book. That's right, I published a book. It's called From the Cavern to Abbey Road, a journey through the Beatles' iconic landmarks. In this book, we see the story of the Beatles from the places where everything happened. Some of them are famous, like let's say Abbey Road Studios, and some of them perhaps not so famous, like for example the art gallery where John and Yoko met. I put a lot of work and effort into this book, and it would help me so much if you grabbed a copy. It's available on Amazon all around the world, so if you want your copy, please go to the link in the description. Thank you. Now back to the video. Let's go ahead with our next section.
Breaking down the music, breaking down the music, breaking down the music, breaking down the music.
The music of Please Please Me showcases the band's early mastery of crafting infectious pop rock tunes, blending energy and emotional resonance. The song structure is straightforward, driven by a bright and lively E major key that underpins its sense of urgency and optimism. The use of call and response, such as come on, adds dynamic tension, reflecting the narrator's emotional plea, while creating a catchy, memorable hook. Now, if you remember, in Love Me Do, John Lennon used to sing the last bit that said, "Love me do." The problem was that he was also playing the harmonica, which starts exactly at the same time as the last bit finishes. So love me, ba, 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 instead of do. So producer George Martin asked Paul to sing the last "Love Me Do" line so that John could play the harmonica. However, when they were recording Please Please Me, they had the exact same problem, but they solved it differently. Lennon sang the bit, and the harmonica was later superimposed on a different track. Even from the Beatles' early days, we can see the importance of producer George Martin and the role it played in the Beatles' success. Imagine if they released the song in a slow tempo and they never got a number one hit, and maybe they would have never been famous. So let's go ahead with our final section.
And finally, this is legacy, and
impact. The song was released on the 11th of January 1963 and it reached number 1 on the Melody Makers charts and the New Music Express. However, it only reached number 2 on the UK singles chart. Because of this, it was not included in the Beatles' number 1's compilation. When released in America with Ask Me Why on the B-side, Please Please Me failed to make much of an impact. However, on the 3rd of January 1964, it was re-released, this time with From Me to You on the B-side, and it reached the 3rd spot on the Billboard Hot 100. The Rolling Stone magazine ranked the song at number 184 on the greatest songs of all time, placing it 15th among Beatles songs. So this is pretty much it for now. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also follow me on Instagram or Facebook. You can buy my book. That would actually make me very, very happy indeed. Or the free option is just to subscribe to this YouTube channel and maybe click the bell icon so you're the first to know when I upload new videos. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Well, I'm afraid that's us run out of time.
Oh,
I'm really
okay.
sorry.
Well,
So,
thanks.
Bye, everyone.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I give my heart to you, I must be sure from the very start that you